Welcome back. We've come now to the final segment of the show, that is our market analysis segment, and I'm joined by Bongani Mabuza, who is the head of treasury at Nedbank, to help us make sense of all that's going on in today's trading day, which is actually the third trading day of the week. A very good afternoon to you. How are you doing? It's been a while.
It has, Natsila. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to your viewers. It's a real pleasure to be back here again.
Glad to have you back. So what is your sentiment over the now anticipated end of the U.S. government shutdown?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good place to start. It's very topical. I think we've seen the longest government shutdown in the U.S. in history. It's a 43-day shutdown, so the U.S. government has been closed for that long. There's a lot of implications. I think from a market's perspective, this meant that economic data was not going out into the market. So between today and tomorrow, we expect a flood of economic data to come out, including jobless numbers in the U.S., which shed light on the economic environment, especially from an employment perspective in the U.S., inflation numbers and so on. All of that is expected to come out between today and tomorrow. So we do expect quite a bit of market volatility as a result. I think this morning markets have been largely quiet. Global markets have been largely quiet in anticipation of the opening of the U.S. markets. So we do expect quite a bit of activity as a result of that. I mean, and closer to home, I think the medium-term budget policy statement delivered by the finance minister in South Africa is also expected to drive market activity,
Right.
Depending on how that goes. We have seen some news come out of that policy statement, and the market is receiving it positively. I think the rand is strengthening and getting closer and closer to breaking that 17 mark.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at the rand, how is it actually performing against some of the world's strongest currencies? I understand against the dollar, we're doing quite well. Yeah,
no, thanks. And that that trend continues across all the major currencies. I'm not seeing. I mean, against the dollar, we're at 17.14,
okay.
which is further strengthening. Against the euro, we're at 19.8269, and against the British pound, we're at 22.46. And I mean, just taking a step back, a month or two ago, against the dollar, we're around 1760, 1770. Against the euro, we were at over 20. We're around 20.2. Against the pound, we're at 23. So the rand has strengthened quite a bit. I mean, when you see these moves on a day-to-day basis, it's easy to lose track of the context of where we're actually coming from. So the rand has strengthened quite a bit, and it's quite good from a general economic perspective. If you're an overall importer of goods, I mean, the effect of that in our economy is that we saw just last week, as a result of the rand strengthening and as a result of lower crude oil prices, a reduction in fuel prices at petrol stations. So
Right.
that has an impact on normal people like you and me.
Right. I'd like for you to give us your analysis of equities. Just some hours ago, we learned that SoftBank, sold its entire stake in NVIDIA. NVIDIA actually, amid concerns that AI-related stocks are suddenly overvalued. Could we be seeing early signs of a tech correction there? What's happening?
Yeah, no, that is very interesting, and I think that we did see that happening yesterday, and we did see, as a result of that, the price of NVIDIA go down by just shy of 3% in the US. It dragged the entire IT sector down. But overall, the S&P 500 was up about 1/5 of a percentage point, which is good. The FTSE 100 was down just about 10 basis points, and the JSE All-Share Index up about 2/3 of a percent. But coming back to your question, what is happening with what SoftBank is doing is they are saying they're taking a big bet on AI. So they are selling off NVIDIA and focusing more on AI stocks. So as a result, you saw a big jump in in their quarterly profits, I think to about $16.6 billion that they released. And this was largely due to gains that they realized from their investment in OpenAI. And they are doubling down on that and other AI-related investments that they're doing.
Right. When we move on to our commodities, how's gold actually performing of late?
Yeah, no, thanks. I mean, the story from a commodities perspective is usually a result of volatility or volatility expectations. From a gold perspective, we saw 3 days of gains in the gold price. Gold is a bit steady today, just really flat compared to where it was yesterday. And traders are awaiting data after the U.S. government opening. I think, as we said, between today and tomorrow, we're expecting a flood of data from a U.S. perspective, and we expect, depending on how that goes, a bit of volatility in the market. From a crude oil perspective, it's down just about 1% from where we were yesterday. And again, we did see 3 days of gains in the crude oil price. And the big news there is really that there will be reports of that are expected to shed light on crude oil expectations or the crude oil market in 2026. So depending on where markets are expecting demand and supply to be in 2026, you might see that price continue to move.
Right. What would be your outlook though for 2026?
Yeah, it's difficult to say from a single commodity perspective. I think, especially in the geopolitical landscape that we find ourselves in, and a lot of the uncertainty that we see. But what has been encouraging is the continued downward trend of the crude oil price that we've seen in the last couple of months, and that is encouraging in terms of from a consumer perspective, because it means it puts more money back into the pockets of consumers.
Right, fair enough. Mabuza, thank you so much for your analysis. That was Bongan Mabuza, Head of Treasury at Nedbank, helping us make sense of today's trading day. Otherwise, we'll take a break. My colleague and I will be back shortly to wrap up the show.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan